There is more to me, Queen Eliara of Elfgard, than my elven magic. Just as there's more to Geico than saving you money, Geico also gives you 24/7 access to licensed agents online, on the phone, or on the Geico app. And while I am a mighty elf queen, I am also a mighty big fan of barbecue potato chips. Minions! More smoky mesquite.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Within the Chaos with your host,
Rodney Shortridge,
and co-host,
Robin Dalton.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us again tonight. You can listen in by going to blogtalkradio.com/Within the Chaos, or you can listen in by phone by dialing 323-870-4197. You can also call in to ask any questions to our guests at the same number at 323-870-4197. From deep within the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you all for listening to Within the Chaos. My name is Rodney Shortridge, and I'll be your host tonight, along with my fiery redhead co-host, Robin Dalton.
Hey, y'all.
Tonight, our special guest is James Bush. James will be discussing his life as a demonic. This is going to be interesting. So,
yes,
Robin, how's your week been?
Well, I've been trying to tackle the flu/cold, whatever this crud is. Been all right. So just bear with me, because tonight I've still got a cough and I'm still feeling kind of cruddy, but I'm here.
Give you an A for participation. I'm just glad that shit don't come over the airways. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, it's been a rough occupation.
Yeah. When you work with sick people, you sometimes tend to end up getting sick yourself.
Yeah. But I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Well, I figured. I mean, it's a good job. I got a caller here, but I don't know if that's James. But let me check and see if it is. We'll go ahead and get this started. Hello, James. Is that you? Hello? Okay, maybe it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we got somebody listening in, but I don't think it was James. I guess what else is going on? What we got coming down with Black Diamond that you know about?
Well, we have our first investigation of the year set for the 18th of this month, and we have another investigation coming up in March. So looking forward to getting back into the hustle and bustle of our investigations. I've missed it. I miss not being out there talking to my dead people.
Yeah, we got a lot. I know I got Melinda covered up, especially with the events and stuff we're supposed to go ahead and get planned for the year. Let me check and see if he is ready. Come on. I know you all can hear me typing, but I'm sorry about that. But
hey, at least you ain't talking and typing like you usually do.
I know. Are you ready to come on the show? We are ready for you. Y'all heard that?
That's more like it.
There you go. If we're going to do it, if we're going to be consistent, by gosh, I better do it right.
So, have you talked to Dally today? How's the birthday girl?
Oh, yeah. Well, I sent her a text message and wished her happy birthday. I know this weekend we're going to have her a little cake and ice cream and my specialty that she loves, my heart attack in a pot. I ain't made that in a few years, but she's wanting some. I'm going to make it for him, but I sure the hell ain't going to eat none of it. Lord, it kills me.
That's why it's called heart attack in a pot.
Yeah, I'm too old. I'm about ready to have one anyway. I don't need no help.
Well, I'd like to invite everybody out to the Crossroads Grants here in Princeton Saturday. During the day, we're going to have a hot dog / bake sale fundraiser for a girl I work with. Her mom passed away, and we're trying to raise some money for the funeral expenses. So if y'all get a chance, come out and support our Church Lane family. It'd be greatly appreciated.
Yes, everybody get out and try to support what you can, because the way the world's going, won't be long. We'll be having to worry just about being in survival mode. Anyway, that's another topic. I see that he's on the line, so it's my honor to welcome our special guest tonight, Mr. James Bush. Hello, James. Thank you for joining us tonight, bud.
You bet, Ronnie. Glad to be here.
Can
you hear me?
Tell us a little bit? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay. I sure can.
Okay, good. Well, let's just start off here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, bud?
Well, all right. I guess what brought us together was my blog about demons and demonic activity in my area and in my life. And that is what I have been mostly about since I started it for the past 5 years. But that situation has been going on a little bit, maybe longer. It did start, at birth, but it wasn't a problem that I advertised as such until 5 years ago. And it wasn't a significant problem that I could put a finger on until maybe 10 years ago. And so the story I think that's most interesting to people, and the one that introduces it is in 2006. I think he posted one of my videos that kind of talked about some of my experiences in 2006 to Blog Talk page a while back. It's the one that said Attack of the Game Stalkers. That was the one where things really kicked off for me, and that's kind of what I'm about. I'm about those things, and only about those things. That requires my full-time attention, and we have it whether I put my time into it or not. To be honest with you, it's that intense.
Well, so is there a difference being possessed by the devil compared to being possessed by a demon?
Well, as I've said to you before, there's a very strong unlikelihood that you would ever be directly possessed by the devil. It would always be a demon. But, when we talk about the devil, we talk about not just that particular entity, but his machine. We talk about the devil, his angels, and the agents of the Antichrist. The devil, really, you could be talking about a person, and in a way, be talking about the devil if they're aligned with him and his goals and his agenda and evil in general, or just against God or not with God in any way, shape, or form. And so there might be a difference. I would think that if the devil took you over, it would be something that you would not remember very well, because the best possessions are the ones you don't remember, that are erased from your mind. Temporary amnesia, not even temporary amnesia, but short-term amnesia, is a hallmark of a good possession. A lot of people say they have repressed memories of demons as childhood that they don't remember at the time they were children. That amnesia it's just a matter of that amnesia starting to undo itself in your mind over time. But at the time you were a child, you probably weren't all that afflicted by it. But later in life you were. I don't know if you ever heard anybody talk about repressed memories along those lines, but that's what that's from. It's not repressed memories or nightmares or anything. It's the real thing coming back to mind. And if you'd had any encounters with the devil, I doubt that anything like that would you'd remember even 20, 50, 60 years later. God would have to tell you about that on the day of judgment. You wouldn't know. So I would say there's a difference right there. Yeah.
Okay, so is the devil a fallen angel?
Okay, so the devil is definitely that. And by fall, however, it wasn't so much that he was kicked out of heaven as much as it was he just no longer fit. And what he wanted, what his sin was, what his transgression, what the incompatibility with the higher realms of heaven was, is he decided that he was going to try to live in a certain way that he thought was right, and then make it work when in fact it would not work, and it ran counter to God's judgment on certain issues of virtue and that kind of thing. And we call that pride. And it doesn't work up there. We can't enter heaven because of the things in us that are like that, and he can't stay there because of things that are in him. And so he's fallen, but what he did with it, pride loves company. What he did is he convinced a third of heaven, the population at the time, to agree or side with him, or to not change, or not to get into agreement with God about how things are. And when they fell, it was more like an oil and water kind of thing, really. God had to lift a finger. A lot of people, when they think of the war in heaven and how there was angels fighting each other and whatnot, there might have been, but what there definitely was for sure is just an oil and water situation where in the higher realms, if you're not in line with God, your soul just does not resonate with his, and you have to fall just a little bit lower. And that's part of the reason why God put us this low to begin with, is he wanted us to work upwards and not start up and then fall. And so he'd rather us not be there at all if we can't get it right. So that's kind of what we mean by fallen. And so he is a fallen angel with everyone else that's fallen, and that doesn't afford him any special designation other than knowledge of what is up there that we don't have. Maybe some connections that we don't have, but other than that, it just means that he started from the opposite end of the spectrum that we did, and he can't go back. Because what made him fall? We could probably make a couple of mistakes in heaven. We probably could, and we couldn't make them over and over without turning into something else that was no longer compatible. And that's what he did. The rebellion describes the period of time when he and his continually rejected the notion of changing, or of giving in, or accepting defeat on a matter in which they were wrong. And so the rebellion was that time period from where he went to, at the beginning of it, he was changeable. He was salvable. By the end of that, at the beginning of the fall, was when it was just, he had lived in a certain way for so long that there was just no way he could be rehabilitated or no longer fit. And that is what we have to worry about when we're here on earth, We have to use his example. We have to look at the devil and say, that's what happened to him. Is there anything in my life that I'm not doing correctly, that I refuse to stop doing? How much longer am I going to get away with it before I can no longer give it up? Or I let it shape me to the point where I'm not compatible with the kingdom of God. And so that's why we know about it, and that's the significance of that.
So would you say that's how humans fit into the battle between God and the devil over humans?
Well, there is no battle. There is no battle. There's just an opportunity. The battle is as big as you want it to be, and only as big as you want it to be. You can either do what you're supposed to do all the time and be okay, or you cannot and not be okay. And how big your battle is how big you make it on that. It is hard. It is truly a battle if you have lived wrong for a very long time and you have to give something up. Then we're talking a battle. But again, it's just with you and your temptations. And we know what the devil, how good he is. If he took a third of heaven, that's a small amount. If he took a third of heaven, of very highly intelligent creatures, and tempted them away from perfection and from God, he's awfully good at it, and there is a battle there. But God has given you every opportunity to overcome. First of all, he's wiped away everything that you have done wrong, if you want it to be. And the only way you have to call salvation or, justified you with Christ's blood. And if you redeem that or if you appropriate that salvation, it's yours regardless. And so that's not something the devil had up there. And so you have every means to turn things around for you, and it's no battle. All you have to do is what Christ says, which is straighten it up, do good, be proactive about your salvation. In other words, don't just not sin, but also do good, and you're okay. And bring others to me, and we're good. Be a light into the world. They didn't know who wouldn't want to do that, and who couldn't do that. And so there is no battle in my mind. I wouldn't call it that, but it is hard. It is hard. I mean, there's at least one thing in my life that has been a real struggle to give up. I mean, a real struggle, and it looks dark sometimes, but I just remember that, Jesus wants me. He had me in mind when he died on the cross, just like he did all of us. And it will, what I can't do, he will. So I don't give up, and I keep agreeing with God on what's right and wrong. And as long as I keep on agreeing and keep working and keep making some kind of improvement and not being a problem to others with whatever it is that I've got going on, I know that Christ will pull me through. And it's that confidence that you have to have. There's no, battle is when you don't have confidence, but an easy road is when you do, the way I see it. So we'll see. That's kind of how I see that.
Okay.
All right.
How? I know this is kind of a straightforward question, but I don't know how any other way to approach it. But how did you become possessed?
Well, I wouldn't say that I am all the time, but how I made myself a frequent and intense target, I think, is just a matter of circumstance. We've heard of people who have a greater propensity towards certain abilities and that kind of thing. And I think I might have just been roll the dice. One of those people who was a very ideal target simply because it looks like, and I kind of hate to throw myself out there like this, if I couldn't demonstrate it personally for anybody who asks, but I have kind of like an ability to kind of like make it easier for demons to go back and forth between their realm and this one under certain circumstances, which I can reproduce 100% of the time, anytime, anywhere. And I think that was really appealing for demons, and I don't think they meant to give that to a human. I don't think they meant for a human to be in control of that. And I think that one of the greatest attempts that were ever made to control a person were made on me so that they could have, or think they could have, a power, not a power, I don't call it a power because I can't really control it, I can only initiate it, but, to have control over something like that. And so I think that I have become a crux of possession, like a target higher than most people, simply because of that. And I think that's what it's about. What it's about for anybody else, I don't know, to be honest with you. I do know what the tactical and physical and material advantages are for a demon who possesses. I know that there's what all of those things are. Like if you just took your Joe Schmo off the street and said, how it benefits a demon if they possessed him, I could tell you from end to end what that is. And that I'm sure it's probably a lot of that for me too, but it's a little bit something special for myself as well.
Now, did you ask to be possessed?
No, ma'am. And the possession process isn't something you can ask for. A lot of people think that they know when a possession, his life is just fine. All of a sudden he got possessed with the devil and now it's just crazy. No.
Yeah.
The point at which you noticed it is when it was made evident to you. But that is a process that generally starts at birth, maybe before. And so you may not know it, but it did. And so a demon will work you, demon and his crew, there's never just one, will work you from birth till death to use you. It's like the Indians and the buffalo. There wasn't a thing of a buffalo that didn't get used for something, and that is the way it is with demons and humans. When an Indian hunted a buffalo way back when, that's either the tongue, the eyeballs, everything got used for something. The hooves, things that we would just take the meat and run. But Indians, they would use every single thing, the organ for medicine. I mean, there was nothing about it that didn't get used, and that's the kind of how demons are with people. And so, and they start that from the beginning, and they don't just use the whole human; they use the whole human lifespan. So, yeah.
So
that's a long time coming by the time you see it.
So is this a good thing? So is this a good thing or a bad thing by being used like this?
That is it's a horrid thing. It is a total disregard of your dignity as a sentient being. It is a violation. It is a rape. It is a murder because it is extremely unhealthy. It is a theft. It is a kidnapping. It is everything you could think of as bad. That's what it is. Well, it is absolutely unnecessary. They don't have to do it to live. They don't need it to survive. They don't have, there is no emergency that requires them to do, what they do. It's just what's happening, what they do for whatever reason. And a lot of it has to do with just, they want to be here. They want to exploit. Like I said, they do get things out of it. This is a whole entire world that can be used for whatever. They may have, an agenda by the devil. I mean, the devil absolutely, positively. It sounds so corny to me at first. For a long time, it just sounded corny to say, the devil's out to get you. He's trying to lead you away from God. Like that was happening. There was no evidence to me that was happening, except for the people who said it was, And it turns out it really is about that. Like when you read the Bible and you read about that being the biggest thing in Jesus' mind and everybody else's mind, they were thinking correctly. Anybody who isn't thinking like that is thinking incorrectly. And if you think, well, I can ignore it and it won't be real, you're wrong. You'll just be wake up in hell someday. So, it really truly is going on. And I think that most of the time a devil will possess or a demon will possess a person simply to keep them from God. I mean, we are truly God's children. We are incubated here as His, come-ups. We're coming up, and the fewer he gets, the more satisfied the devil will be, and that's where it's going. He's good at tempting people, keeping them away from God and bringing them away from God, and that's what he's going to keep on doing. That was the most devastating thing that could have happened in heaven, and he intends to wreak even more devastation. He feels like a weaker kingdom is a easier to deal with kingdom, and he feels like the fewer people in God's kingdom, the weaker they are. It's completely incorrect, but that's what he thinks, I think. What other options does he have? If he doesn't win this war, he goes, he burns in fire forever. What other options do you have? Just sit here and wait for that? He's going to kick. He's going to kick and scream, and that's part of what this is.
So, could a possession be more physical or psychological instead of being possessed by a demon?
I'll tell you what. There's definitely a mental illness. Mental illness factors into possession in a big way. And I'll tell you this right now. It factors in most cases in that one reason is it's inflicted intentionally, for one thing. Demons do not want you. They want to obfuscate their trail. They want to maintain their cloak of secrecy. They want to maintain that veil of disinformation. They want people to still talk about possession if it's brand new and they don't know anything about it. And they're not going to do anything about it because it's not real or it's just crazy people. Whatever cloak or veil they have, smoke screen they have around that whole thing, that is is what they want to maintain. And so one of the very first things they can do is go for someone's mental illness. The other thing, too, that's not always intentional. That is a byproduct of the possession process. They are and have been for a very, very long time hard at work to make that not happen to people, to keep people sane as possible and yet unaware at the same time, or aware and accepting, even though that doesn't matter if they accept it or not. You can't have a will of your own and be possessed, often. But I mean, it's a byproduct, but it's never something that someone would fabricate. If someone says I'm possessed, they probably are. Maybe not the time that they say it, but probably sometime after that or before that. And even if it's not the case, even if they're making it up, that mental illness, God doesn't make a defective product. Somebody did something to that person to make them that way. I guarantee you, it happened. Either if it wasn't from an accident or a poisoning or some other kind of external factor, the devil or his had something to do with it. That's for sure. That's for sure. And but I mean, one thing that people would say to me, before I had like the thousands and thousands of videos and pictures, and now a ton of other people are having the same problem under my belt, in my collection or whatnot. When it was still up in the air, when it was still brand new, to a lot of people, people would ask, "Are you crazy?" And I said, "Well, I might be, but my camera's not." And I've actually on my website, on my blog, I posted a psychological evaluation from a psychiatrist showing, what, if any, diagnosis I may have. There's nothing in there like schizophrenia. There was a diagnosis for major depression, major depressive disorder, which just means I get the blahs. But it does not. That is not a bipolar or a delusional illness. That's not anything that would generate hallucinations or make somebody likely to see things that aren't there and things like that. And then my blog actually is kind of boring because of that problem, that perception, because I have to leave a lot of interesting stories out and a lot of mainly just interesting stories and a lot of things I know that I want to tell, I just leave out. I focused on keeping or putting on the blog only things that I can prove definitively, either if I'm asked or if I can show it. And so most of the blog, like if you come across a blog entry and you're reading about something that seems a little bit far-fetched, follow the hyperlinks. Every one of them in that post, it will bring you to photographic or video evidence of what I'm talking about. And you have to follow the links in there. You will leave that blog, if you follow every link I put in front of you and watch every video and look at every image, you will not doubt what I'm saying. And so that's really important. So I can always tell that anybody who has asked me, that question, which doesn't come up anymore, that they haven't read the blog, or at least not thoroughly. Because I'm too afraid. I'm too chicken, I'm too much of a chicken to put anything up there that I cannot support, definitively and absolutely. And so that's what anybody who has any doubts out there when they read the blog, follow through. It's all there. The proof is there. The proof is in the pudding. Yeah. Well,
have you ever had or ever tried to have a priest, exorcise the demon that you have?
Sure. Well, I'm not a Catholic, and so I'm not welcome to have that done. There are quote-unquote priests who will take anybody, I'm sure, who would have them, to do that. But my understanding of the Catholic faith is that you have to be a Catholic, and I'm not. I'm what you call a Protestant, and they would consider that effort a failure. Right off the bat, but I'll tell you this right now, there is not a man alive on earth who has the authority by Jesus Christ to throw out a demon out of anybody. And if they do, they will not keep it out. It will not stay. And, any priest that comes up and says, that person's got a demon and I can exorcise it out of him in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, they obviously don't even know what they're talking about. There is never just one demon, and that demon is inside the person. A demon has a staff, a cast of characters that work in and around him and the target and the target's relatives and friends, and even a side staff that will address any newcomers, any acquaintances that come and go in a person's life. They will have, they will put 50 demons on a person, that comes into a possessed person's life, just to make sure that the whatever it is that got going on isn't interrupted, or is known before it happens. And so if the priest isn't, if a priest comes up to me and says I can do that, I'm like, well, what about the other 50 that are on you right now, watching you, waiting to see what you're going to do, or the ones that are already in you that you don't know about? What are you going to do with those? It's ridiculous to me to hear that kind of thing. So I have not been to a priest, but I have talked to quite a few about it just to ascertain their understanding of the problem. And I haven't found anybody in my immediate vicinity that say they can do that. I had one referral to a so-called archbishop or something who had supposedly the ability to do this. He never responded back, and it wasn't anything more than just a simple request to a secretary or something to be called back to discuss it or to get a response on what that might entail. It's not something that's available to people. I know that there might be, in your neck of the woods there might be, but I don't even know where to go. If I had to go to something like that, I wouldn't know where to look anymore. I've looked everywhere, and I would doubt that it exists. I don't think it does. I don't think it does. Now there are. Let me tell you what can be done. There are people who are not so much possessed, but actually are known demons. They're not possessed. They're not a problem to the person. There are families out there who have quote unquote demon friends who. Demons aren't just all bad. They are a population of species that are just the same as us. We're all bad if you want to count. You want to talk about humans in general, we're all pretty much bad. We know this. And the same thing can be said of demons. But at the same time, there are varying degrees of bad. There's some good people among us, right? And there are some good demons among demons, right? And at the end of the day, we all have to make a living, regardless. And so it is in the demon society. And there's also as many different demonic species as there are fish in the sea. We're all humans. We might have some black ones, some white ones, whatever. But with demons, they got the starfish ones, the shellfish ones, the sandfish ones, the sharks. It just goes on. And then you got a million of those each. And so there are families that are kind of like joined and across the realms. And those people sometimes pick up a thing or two that they can do for you or to you, and to sort of drive or demons away from you if there's a problem, to sort of police their own people, if you will, or if and some have taken it upon themselves to kind of keep things on the down low. Like this is not being what I'm saying now is not very appreciated by some families, such families, but they might see too much noise being made over in one corner of the world, and they may, if isn't so inclined, go there and sort of clean house or put the damper on things. So there are things that can be done. Once you got a demon on you, you're not necessarily trapped, and you can also learn a thing or two yourself. If you're observant and you're exposed to the problem often enough, and you get around enough, as I would, as being sort of like the center of traffic, you can pick up a thing or two that can aid you or to keep the problem at bay or somewhat controllable, or at least have a say in there somewhere. And so it's not all lost just because there's no priest available, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, I know you were talking about, that several demons are, they will attack one person and stay on them. Now, is that considered several that are possessing at the same time, or are you possessed by one and then the other one?
Well, the word possession has two meanings. There's bodily and mental possession, and then there's just to be afflicted by. They don't have to be inside your body to do a thing. That's just where they chose to anchor. But you can be possessed of a demon, meaning you can have demons on you. And you never say one demon. There's never one. I promise you, there's just never one. Not like exorcists. There's never one demon. There's always a million of them around you. And they can basically anchor themselves to any object around you, and they don't have to stay in that object. I have on my blog a video of an orb following me from my apartment into my car. That's a demon who was anchored somewhere in my home, who wanted to go where I was going, and jumped in the car with me as I took off in it. And so they can move all the same, but anchoring is just kind of like where they sit. When they're in that orb form or whatever, there's a lot of effort for them to maintain direction and velocity and things like that, and to stay afloat. And so it's just like we ain't going to stand on our feet all day. We're going to sit down when we find a chair when we get somewhere. Same thing with a demon. But possession, as far as that goes, there isn't anything more special about being inside a person than there is being inside your lamp except for the fact that it's going to be you're going to be able to sit down. If you're in a person, you're going to be able to sit down while they're walking. You're not going to have to get up and follow them. And as far as the difference between you or for you goes, it would be less healthy because those molecules, even of the demon, even though they are the same as ours, when they are in their native state, when they're exhibiting their native properties, they are dangerous, they are deadly, they are radioactive. A lot of the background radiation that we describe as just natural to our environment is anything but. It is demonic presence. It is demonic radiation. It is killing us. It is part of what ages us, makes us sick. And if a demon is in us, it's like swallowing uranium. It's bad.
Do you know any of the demons' names?
I do. I've got 3 names. They will not tell me even. I can't even get one of them to tell me their species. I would kill to get a name of its species because there's so many different ones. I just want to be able to blurt it. And I have no point in knowing. I have no reason. I see so many different ones. I just want to know what the name of the species is. They won't do it. But I got 3 names there, and I got pictures of one of them on my blog. There's Iggy. Now that is the one, the white-faced creature that I met at a friend's homeless encampment that a friend of mine was staying in. I went to visit him during a period of high demonic activity, and I have 3 little people demons. One of them gave me his name. The 3 are pictured. I think I gave this to Rod already. It might be on his site or something on my blog. If you just search for little people on my blog, you in the homeless encampment or something like that, you'll see 3 really, really pristine, good pictures of 3 little people demons. So the white one, his name is Iggy. The third one is my mortal enemy, or second one is my mortal enemy, and he's all of our mortal enemies, pardon the pun, and his name is Tuzo, the demon of death. And I don't know if he is death, like the one that's going to be the last enemy that Christ defeats, and it's foretold in the book of Revelation or whatnot. But his followers are humans, demons, whoever, who are joined not so much in a church, but a club of people who all know how to kill a person in a specific way. So they roam the earth, and these are people. In fact, people are the enablers. In fact, it's usually done not directly by demons, but if they're targeted as a human, then it's humans who do the killing in conjunction with demons' directions and whatnot. But they're a murder club, and they just pick people that they want killed. Right now, the Tuzo, the demon of death, is contracted with the devil to effect what they call a culling. The culling is called, that's where you just pare down the human population. It's called the exclusion. It's been going on for about a decade and a half, where it's just a worldwide slaughter of humans to bring down the population of people, and they're using the Tuzo clan or the Tuzo church or the Tuzo club or Tuzo people to affect that. And so you're watching people, the first round of killing was the AIDS crisis in the 1980s. That would be the first round. It might have been AIDS. It might have been that was making people as sick as it was, but it was also cloaked entities that were placed on their bodies and inside their bodies to diminish things inside. That's where they got like people, getting sucked up and things like that, and kind of losing their glands, the glands that have the virus-killing cells in them, immune system glands, whatever they're called. They were like their cheeks and their faces and their skulls were getting all sucked up. That wasn't really the virus so much as it was cloaked entities placed inside and underneath their bones and their faces, and it was just kind of deteriorating the tissue underneath and rendering them unable to fight off infection. That's what that was. And so there were people. It's so sad to find out if it wasn't just a bunch of promiscuous gay men who were. That was how you found the target, but it wasn't just them getting their recompense or the consequences of their actions. It was because, again, that's how Tuzo found his target. But it was, in fact, their own people that were doing it to them. And it was their own people. It was the people that they were having sex with, the ones who survived most likely. That whole thing that were passing those creatures on to them as they were encountering them physically. And that was the first round. The second round that's going on now is similar. They're doing it to homeless people. Homeless people are dying left and right, and homelessness has increased much, much more than what's been advertised. Much, much more, and it's almost double the slaughter of the AIDS crisis in the 80s now with homeless people. If you have been recently facing homelessness, or you have been made homeless somehow in recent times, you should be considered a target. You are marked for death. That is how it works, and I am so sorry to say that is how it works. And that's one subgroup that is faced it. Prior to that, and maybe a little bit after, would be the black population. Black men were targeted. They were thrown into prisons. They did not come out. They were put into situations where they felt like they had to be in gangs, and they were getting shot and killed right and left. It's things like that. And those things are not people being stupid or ignorant or sinful. They are, but it's only how they are flagged for that kind of thing. It's not really, and you can't get God to put any of His people on you if you're not doing what He says. You can't convince God to protect you for long if you're living that kind of lifestyle. And because the angels that He would send to help you are about as vulnerable as a demon. The angels and demon, that word doesn't really make a difference. It's they're the same stock of people. And so a lot of times you're abandoned to your sin or your lifestyle, and you can either make it through or you won't. God cares, but He can't risk people He cares about to save you. And so that's how that goes. And so that's kind of the way things are manifesting themselves now. But now it has a name. And since Tuzo, the demon of death, the one I can name, does not have enough people, he has a quota, he has so many people he has to kill, he has actually had to go out and make people homeless. And that's where you have what we call gang stalkers. Gang stalkers are roving gangs of people who prey upon the lonely and the people who are vulnerable but wealthy enough to own homes or have homes or things that these gangs can sustain themselves on as they erode away at their resources and force them into homelessness. And that is, in fact, what happened to me in 2006. When you listen to that video called Attack of the Gang Stalkers on my website or on Rob's Within the Chaos website or whatever, that is the story of how gang stalkers came in and devoured everything I had in order to put me into a vulnerable position where I could be more easily culled from society. And if I had not been very vigilant, if I had not been unique in my ability to provide demon door services, if you will, I would be dead for sure by now. Certainly attempts have been made, and many. And so I've actually there's actually demons who have come to my rescue. Seriously, to save my life because of the usefulness I provided, not necessarily because of, care for me or anything like that. So the third one I know, or I've heard is, I don't know if I'm getting it right or not, it's either Astarte or Astaroth. I could look it up. I had it written down somewhere like in the Pseudo-Monica Dominican or something like that. I looked it up, but supposedly, people hear voices. It's not crazy because they really do hear them. Nobody hears voices that aren't there, even crazy persons. They're real. They are a legion of demon that come from this person's demon name that starts with an A. I did not know this for years. I do not even care. I cannot verify it. It was just a message that was delivered to me that they were asked to be. They were being asked to be recalled from me and mine because of the situation the ability that demons have through me. They refused it. They're still a problem to me, but that name was thrown out there as the one who's in charge of that particular legion. So I'm going to say I know a third name, and that's the one. So those three. Iggy's just an acquaintance. Iggy's just somebody that happened to me. I recognized his species from what I thought was a dream back when I was a kid, and I told him what the dream was about, and he confirmed, that was us and whatnot. Not, he wasn't him specifically, but he says, what you described, so because I described their weapons and things like that, and he says, yeah, you obviously know who we are, and I'm Iggy and all that kind of stuff, and that's the last name I ever got. I don't know who got penalized for that, but it makes other demons so mad when a human gets their name or becomes familiar with him on any terms whatsoever that I've never gotten one, except for except for the name of someone who can defend themselves, and that would be Tuzo, and it's a Astarte person. Other than that, I've never gotten like a common demon's name or species.
Right. Well, do you know if there is already an Antichrist or if there's going to be one?
So if you've ever read the book of 1 John, you know that the term Antichrist would be anybody who would deny Jesus Christ as the Son of God and Savior of the world, or someone who may not necessarily do that, but preach another gospel aside from the one that the apostles preached. And when John, or Jesus, but I guess there's a couple places in the New Testament where people were called, or it was alluded to the fact that they were preaching a gospel other than the one that was preached by the apostles. The book of Galatians, as you know, is all about that. the Galatians, the epistle to the Galatians, the letter to the Galatians is not a happy one. They were doing fine, and then some people came in and started preaching circumcision or something like that. It's another gospel than the one that Apostle Paul preached to them, and they were considered antichrist. They were saying that there was something that you had to do besides believe in Jesus to make yourself justified before God. And at the time, it was circumcision. So there's a bunch of church members getting themselves circumcised, thinking that if they didn't, they would not be accepted by God, and that's antichrist. So, but if you are talking about what a lot of people think of as the antichrist, which would be somebody who would come into the world and lead in mass, people away from God, and that person would be the banner antichrist and receive that title. With spirits, it never works that way. It might, but it's basically anything. Even God isn't just God. He's also Jesus Christ, and he's also the Holy Spirit.
Right.
The devil might be the devil, but he's also his angels and his agents. It's when you're talking about the devil, you could be talking about that individual person, Lucifer, but you could also be talking about the whole machine of evil. The same thing with the Antichrist. You would not, or the Holy Spirit. There is a Holy Spirit, but if he's split up in between all of us, and he comes and goes, and and he connects and unites us. He's not really just one person, is he? He's kind of like a being that just has more than one place in space and time. And so I think the Antichrist is exactly like that, and I think it's very much at work. And I think the most insidious visible portions of the Antichrist are people who are in the church who are complicating the message of the gospel, who are making the Bible about a complicated book that needs a PhD-like understanding in order for you to achieve your salvation, when it in fact is not. It will take you into the depths of the universe of knowledge if you wanted to, but on its face, it is a very simple message and very simply understood. And I think the perfect example of the most aberration, the perfect example of an aberration of the Word of God is probably if you go to iTunes and you look at the podcast and the religious podcast, there are topics on there that have nothing to do with you getting to heaven. Nothing. You have to read them to understand what I'm talking about. You have to go look at them.
Wow. So what
type of the thing? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just wondering, with all your research that you've been doing, scientific study or tools do you use when you're doing all this research?
So, well, if you want to deal with the problem hand-to-hand, and there is a hand-to-hand aspect to it, you can be spiritual about it, and you can understand that no matter whether you're demon or human or whoever, no matter where you're at, whether you're on planet Mars or planet Earth, the bottom line is, do you know the difference between good and evil, and which are you? But that's what it comes down to for everybody and nothing else. But there is a hand-to-hand aspect to it, and if you want to get into that, you need to know physics.
Huh.
Biology wouldn't help. Biology. Physics, basically physics. Biology wouldn't hurt. Just basic scientific reasoning, scientific theory, how to look at something scientifically, how to create a theory and work it into facts. It's skills that are very, very helpful. But physics, more than anything, physics apply to demons more than any other science. And in particular, right now, if you say, well, physics is kind of broad. There's all kinds of mechanics. There's this, physics of light. There's physics of sound. There's physics of whatever. Which one do I start with? That would be light, because it helps you understand a problem when you can see all aspects of it. And so the physics of light is the most important aspect of physics, the most important subfield of it that you can learn in order to be effective in this problem on a physical level. And that is so that you can see it. Now, when you apply the physics of light with just one tool, and that is a CCD sensor found in a digital camera, you can capture things with your camera that you can't with your eyeballs. And there's different ways of doing that depending on what you're trying to find. And there's different times that you could do that to find anything. And there's different places. But in general, you won't miss a thing if you know physics of light and you have a digital camera. And my blog is chock full of my journey from the beginning of that to where it is now, which is highly advanced. And I gave Rod a link, a Google search link that searches my blog and pulls out a lot of the most relevant blog posts that discuss that and show where I've come from, what I've done, it turns out, again, anybody can figure it out. Anybody can do what I do. You just have to follow along. And so I would say that if you got a digital camera and if you're a student of the physics of light, you are in the money when it comes to exploring, strange new worlds and seeking out new civilizations. You got it. You don't need the Enterprise for that. You got it. So that's how it works. Those are the tools.
That kind of takes me into my next question about. I was going to see if you would explain to everyone the demonic language and the process you use with your cell phone camera to catch the demonic letters hidden throughout the world.
Yeah, what's so funny? That has to be the most profound accident I have ever made in my life, and that's ever been. I had no intention of discovering that whatsoever, and it's almost a distraction. I had my eye set on a particular direction with this problem, and didn't want to be veered off course for anything. And then all of a sudden, I started noticing a pattern in the streaks of light in my overexposed images that I made with my iPhone as I was walking down the street at night. Holding my camera with the exposure on, as high as it'll go, and we was walking, and that's one of the ways. Like if you read the blog and you understand the physics of light and how a CCD sensor works with demons and all that kind of stuff in the light. That's one of the steps you would do to try to find demons and that kind of thing. And I noticed that they were the streaks and that the lights were leaving, from the posts or headlights or whatever else, and street signs and whatnot, were kind of ornate. And it wasn't just ornate; they were repeated over and over. And I thought, well, what's the likelihood of me randomly taking a step over and over and over? 1,000 steps over 10 movies, right? Or 2,000 or 20,000 steps over the course of 20 movies, where I'm going to see the same symbol drawn in light 5,000 times. Something's up. I mean, you can't walk that perfectly. You couldn't do that on purpose. You could not do that on purpose. I challenge you to, try and make the same symbol 5,000 times out of every 10,000 steps, holding a camera as you walk down the street normally and casually. You're not going to be able to do it. And I thought, well, something's up. So I started. So I went frame by frame in these movies, which is how you look for demons in videos. You don't just make a video and just watch it. You stop the video and you go frame by frame by frame. And so I'm going frame by frame by frame, and I'm finding I've got quite a few duplicates. There are quite a few similars, and before you know it, I've got like 15 or 20 similars that are repeated hundreds of times. And so I thought, okay, something's up. And then I'm looking on the internet for different key symbols, that kind of thing. I don't even remember the keywords I used. It took me a really long time to find something. And I come across an alphabet transcoder kind of thing, where it's the alphabet plus these symbols next to each letter, and I thought that was kind of funny, but that's what it was. That made it suspect, but the thing was, what made me not suspect, what made me erase all doubt that something was up, is that a lot of these symbols that this lady had matched to Latin symbols match what I have right on my camera and then the picture frames. I'm like, okay. So that's as far as I got. All I have, and she lived in 1900, so I can't ask her what's up, but that's a document that's been published since the 1900s. It's a book called From India to Mars or something like that, some goofy thing where she was saying that these were Martian characters. They're not. But, I mean, that's what she was told, and that's what she thought at the time. But she has this key, and it's published in my blog, and you will find it. And the movies are, too. The movies are published in my Google Spaces page. If you look up Demon Code, it will tell you where everything's at for you to download and look for yourself. It also tells you how to make them for yourself. And I can tell you when the best time to make a video that might have these characters. I can tell you exactly the date and time in the future when that will be, when you should walk around town at night with your camera, exactly as I did, to find these for yourself. And you can also find them on in any video that was made in semi-dark rooms where there seems to be snow or color noise on the walls. If you freeze frame that, you might find a lot of the snow in the shape of some of those characters. You might. If you don't, I've got 100,000 videos that do, and they're not all mine. There's other people. And so you can look in there, and I can also show you how to use Photoshop or GIMP to get rid of everything in that picture except for the symbols that are shown in the color noise or the noise that shows up when you're, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you shoot something in the dark, it's kind of got the noise in the background. It's all kind of snowy. You know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that stuff often has the symbols in it, and so But anyway, that's about as far as I've gotten with it. It's not that I haven't taken an interest. I just don't know what to do with it. It doesn't seem to be very coherent or cogent, and the letters that are presented as they go together, they don't spell any words that make sense in English. They don't. And so there isn't really anything I can do more with it. But I just thought to myself, that was pretty interesting, so I put it up there. But it's a distraction, if anything. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything yet to me. But it does say one thing, that demons do communicate, and they do it weirdly, and they do it powerfully, and that this is one way they do it with symbols. And so you can match those symbols from the 1900 key to the things in my videos and other people's videos as well, right on my blog, and see it for yourself, and tell me what you think of it, because I really don't know what to make of it. And I can't imagine demons. They're so advanced. Their societies are so advanced. In one way, I can't imagine all the different species having the same language and having the same character set and that kind of thing. I can imagine them doing that just to make life simple, because as you know, on Earth, it's not simple to do business in India unless they speak, English, right, and well. And I can imagine demons saying nuts to all that. Let's just agree on something and do it. And they are certainly, because they have lived longer. I mean, one day in a demon realm is 10 years down here. Not literally, that's not a perfect one-for-one translation, but I mean, that give you an idea. They can live. Their time moves faster but slower. It's all relative, but we come and go in the blink of an eye to them, and and they live ages and ages and ages to us when they're in their realm, and so they've had a lot of time to homogenize things that make sense in homogeny, and that would be language and communication. And so that one thing, in one way, it wouldn't surprise me if they all have the same language. And it wouldn't surprise me either if English was a derivative of that. If they said, we're all doing business on Earth, let's introduce a new language and make it the dominant one and keep pushing until it is the dominant one on that planet so that we can do what we do down there easier. And I would say that if that was going to be any language, it would be either Mandarin Chinese or English. And I want to pick English. I had to pick one. And so, but it's hard for me to believe that they all have one. I'm thinking a lot of the characters I run into, there's some characters that are not in that key that are obviously characters. They're obviously characters of some kind. They're not just random. I mean, they have the flourishes, they have the ascenders, the descenders that we find in our own writing. I mean, they're clearly a font of some kind, And but I'm thinking that they belong maybe to a different species. There might be some variations up there as to language and writing, but not much. I'm thinking, at least not in the neck of the woods I live in. Yeah, but there's no significance to it. I know that Sarah Winchester, she used to call. I don't know if you know who she is, Mrs. Winchester, the Winchester Mystery Mansion. Have you ever heard of that in California?
Oh yeah. Her husband.
Okay, so she had voice of demons problems. She didn't call him that. She called him something else. I can't remember what it was, but she had voice of demons problems. They used to torture her feet, which they do to today. They used to torture her joints, which they do to people today. And they used to make unreasonable demands that on top of all that, and which they still do today. Hers was that she had to build on her house every day she was alive, 24 hours around the clock, as you know. She gave people one story as to what she thought what they were doing, and then there was the real story, and I just happened to be lucky enough to get, and the people who worked there get the real story, and there were two gentlemen who were tour guides on the day I took my brother there, who were quitting, and they were angry. They weren't quitting because they got new jobs, or they were happy quitting. They were angry at the place, and they decided they were going to kind of, do a little something to their employer on the way out the door. And so they announced it's our last tour. We're leaving. We're going to take you on a little special tour about halfway through. And they took us to not the seance room. I don't know if anybody's ever been on the tour there. But not the seance room they call that on the tour, but the real one. And in that room, there were what they called satanic writings. They tried to portray her as a Satanist, and I don't think she was. She wasn't a churchgoer, but she wasn't a Satanist per se. But she had these writings, and I do not remember what they looked like to help me because I just kind of laughed it off. It was silliness to me back then. But I bet you those characters, see them again, would match something I've seen either in my videos or in that key. And so this problem has been around for a very long time, and I'm not the only one to discover or to write those characters or to, okay, and then, you know, and on that, being not the only one, I've got also up on my website where a gang had sprayed graffiti on a dumpster, and one of the characters in that graffiti matched one of the, not on the key, but one maybe like 15 different frames in like across 5 different videos made on 5 different nights in 5 different places. You know, and then one of the Streets of Light in one of those videos. And so I'm not the only one who knows about these characters or you know, published them or put them out there, but I am the only one who said definitively this is a demon thing, and it's brought to us not by our own imaginations or whatever else. It is brought to us by demons. Because again, there's no way I can fake those videos. I just can't. In no way you would fake them either, or all those other people's videos. It's a demon thing for sure.
So is a possession a fight over one's will, or is it a fight for a demon to control you?
It's a fight over your focus and attention. Demons kind of have it backwards a little bit here. In their realm, the higher up you go and the closer to heaven you get, a new factor for making things a reality comes into play. When I want to build something, I got to put one foot in front of the other, and I got to use my hands to make something happen. By and large, I can dream it, but then I got to go do it. They're less so. When they put their focus and attention on something, things become material a little bit easier. And it's not easier to keep your focus on as long as you need to get it to happen, but it doesn't require as many resources or as much physical effort. And so when they come down here, it's hard for them to conceive that that's the same thing. They don't want you to keep your sights on God, keep your sights on anything that might advance your society, might do anything that might put you ahead or above or threaten their interests here, because they have been here a very long time and they have an economy that is based on what it is they do here, an economy, a physical economy that if it collapsed, they would be in trouble. And so they distract. So the battle is to keep your focus. You can focus and think about whatever you want, but not for too long. And you can't share it with people, and you can't take one step to make it happen if it's something that they might perceive as a threat. And if you're the kind of person who might be otherwise very industrious, creative, or productive, you are in trouble, because especially if you know how to make things happen for yourself and others. Those are targets as well. So that's one thing the fight is over, is to keep you distracted. And it is not even... So here's the God thing. Well, why would they try to keep you distracted from God? God's going to get you no matter what, right? It's not even that you would be focused on God and go to Him. Someone would say, go. Who cares? It is when you train your mind to be focused on anything, you know, to be focused in all, or to be capable of focusing on things. You can pick anything at all. So if there's a lot of help out there and a lot of support for you to keep your mind focused on God. The skill you learn, whether you go to God or not, is keeping your mind focused on something. And so that it isn't even God that they're worried about. In most cases, it's just that when you get into that, you've got a lot of support from people telling you how to focus your mind and keep it into a single direction. Even if you after 20 years walked away from that, you would still know how to be a focused person on something and what it took to make something happen with that focus. And they don't want that. They don't want humans to have that skill. And so that's the fight. It's just to learn how to stay focused and apply your focus to manifest from your focus. That's the fight.
Okay.
So what was considered the perfect possession?
I'm sorry, you cut out. What?
I'm sorry, what is considered a perfect possession?
I don't know. Where did you hear that term?
I've been hearing it every now and then, everywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, but it sounds kind of like a. What did you think it might have meant? Like, what are some aspects of perfect possession were understood by you, or was it just completely a word that you knew that you could not, you were blind about it, you just did not know what it meant, and you're coming to me about it? What context was it used?
Some people, from other people we talked to, it just kind of everything kind of lines up from their mental state. Into they wear them down to where they can get them right where they want them.
That's what I would say. Yeah, that's how I would define it if I had to guess, is getting it to where someone has completely acquiesced in all respects to the will of the demon, who has said, what do you need done, and I'll do it, or it can anticipate, even better, anticipate what it is the demon wants them to do and how they want them to be and where they want them to be, when they want them to be there, and it has them completely trained and just has completely lost the will of their own. And beyond that, find it in their own minds the righteous thing to do. There are such persons. There are a group of such persons who actually strive to be that way. One such persons are Christians, but the demon is the Holy Spirit. And I don't mean demon in the literal sense. I just mean it's the same thing. Giving your will over to Christ is absolutely the goal of the righteous Christian. It is a means by which you can join with the Spirit and become more powerful than you would be as a human being. And it's the same thing with demons. I mean, you can get if you are a demon or you are demon empowered at all times, you are going to get farther in this world than a human who is not. And people who see that have actually, learned and succeeded in managing that, getting that for themselves, becoming so intuitive as to what the demon wants and what to do and what to say and how to be, that they end up at all the right places, all the right times, to seemingly make their lives work, but certainly for the demon who led them into that. And that would be the perfect possession. The only problem is there's no future there in that, and it never involves the things that God likes, which is, loving acts. I mean, a lot of them have to be extremely evil to people to make that happen and stay that way, and you're certainly not careful. You're not considering others when you're doing that, that's for sure. And you're not considering yourself, you're not loving yourself. You're giving up yourself to something that doesn't respect or love you. It just considers you a horse that they can break. And that's not what God wants. So that'd be the perfect possession to me. If I had to create that term and define it, that's where I go with it.
Okay.
Well, can a demon be punished if they're not able to possess a host?
So I've never seen a demon fail to possess anything it set out to fail. But then again, I've never seen a demon attempt to do it either. Again, like I said before, a demon, by the time you see a possession, it has been in the making long before you made evidence of itself. It's succeeded by that point. If you think you've seen different, you've seen a dog and pony show. It's a lifelong process that begins from birth till death anymore. Maybe in the old days it wasn't like that, but that's why people went nuts, because they did it wrong. They came out sideways, and it messed them up. But nowadays they don't want that. An ideal possession does not involve making anybody crazy or stand out or hurt in any way, shape, or form in a way that would, like it did in the past. That's not the goal anymore. That's not something that happens. It's regulated now. They regulate their own possessions. They have staff for this. They have in a way, government agencies that regulate it. I mean, they have a structure that facilitates the possession process. People are selected. They're matched with a particular demon who's already been trained in possessions in general. They train staff, or they hire groups of people who specialize in one aspect of demon possession. They help facilitate it. Don't actually possess the person physically, but work the person or the circumstances in their lives to make that work better. But as far as punishment goes, if those people fail to live up to their promises or don't deliver when they say they're going to or how they say they're going to, there can be repercussions of any kind. There's no cap on what that punishment can be. It would vary from taskmaster to taskmaster. And I've seen some extremely heinous punishments being carried out on demons. You would never, ever envy a demon's life who's in a role that involves facilitating possession. It is a gun to your head kind of job that pays extremely well, puts you in a respectable position that you cannot be unseated from if you're successful. But if you're not, you will find your head literally ripped off your body in some cases for having not done what you said you were going to do. It's that serious. And so, yeah, punishment, I would say, it is almost a death penalty every time. So.
Wow. Well, is there anyone else in your family, now or in the past that you know of that's been possessed or had any of these events in their life?
Indeed. So during periods of high demonic activity, when I'm around, because I'm around, demons will bring themselves up into hosts that they're very familiar with, which would be anybody I'm around just about. And so my family's not immune to that at all. They have turned in an instant during periods of high demonic activity. I mean, when I'm flexing whatever muscle it is I have that brings that problem on, it's manifested themselves, and they've just swapped it up immediately and quickly, and they're different people instantly. And I can do my little camera thing and see what demons are actually inside them. I've posted those pictures and discussed that on my blog extensively. If you search for, using Google, search for family, mom, grandma, grandmother, long, L-O-N-G, and put or between all the three of those words, all four of those words, and then put site, demoniacactivity.blogspot.com. That'll search my blog for those keywords, and you will find a plethora of stories and pictures and videos that discuss some of the things they've done as possessed people, and actually see some of the demons that have possessed them. And so, yeah.
So do you feel like possessions can be a hereditary trait then, passed down from generation to generation?
Well, it would make sense that they are. We are, like if I had any offspring, I would assume that the offspring would be enough like me in some respects that the people the demons that worked with me would have a leg up on that child in some respects. And plus, even if they don't inherit some of my characteristics or traits, they would have an idea of what kind of environment or what kind of upbringing that child would have by knowing me. But that would make it easier to do that child. So yeah, I do think it's not something that's in the genes per se, although I would say that it is. But I mean, it's also the genes, but it's also the familiarity with the family line, the people, their environment, their past, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that. But I think that's completely a roll of the dice. I think that happens only because it can, and only because the demons on that particular person or in that particular family are capable of leveraging past work and building on it into the next generation. But as far as that's going to happen for sure. Like if I had children, that would be a problem for my children or anybody else. No, that's not for sure. It's not a guarantee. So. Your genes aren't going to manifest demon problems for yourself. It's all up to the demon and circumstance.
So tell us a little bit more about your blog. What is your main purpose and goals for your blog? What are you trying to accomplish?
So the blog was, I was having major problems, obviously, with demons, and I was getting hurt physically. I wasn't able to be the person I was before in some respects, and I wanted an explanation and not an excuse, and I wanted one that I could verify and not just say you got to believe me. And so, and plus I was getting worried because they were getting very violent, very physical, and I was scared. At the time, that was 5 years ago, back to 2011. So what I did was. I said, I'm going to tackle this problem. I'm going to tackle it serious. First of all, I'm going to provide an explanation as to what's going on in my life to anybody who cares to hear about it. So I started just putting my stuff out there. And I'd already been making notes. And I said, and this blog is going to be anything that I use for a particular purpose, like to go convince or persuade or inform or instruct or anything like that. What it's going to be is just a collection of my notes as I make them and as I find useful. And to the best of my ability when I have the time and if I have the time, useful to other people as well. And it sort of became like that. And I'm going to just put everything I have on this problem and as it goes on into this blog in the form of a diary, sort of. And I've skipped a lot. There's like one, I think there's like an entire year missing in that blog where I was gone. I wasn't able to put anything in there. But it starts from beginning to end, just notes as I saw fit to put them. And that grew into over 1,000 posts in a 5-year history of the problem. And now it's only now I could probably take it and say, okay, I can make a website out of this and make it, super useful to people and answer every question and da-da-da. But I don't have time for that. So I just continued it in that format and just to to keep my notes in there and just write as I see right. Now, for a while, I wasn't really making any kind of acknowledgement of an audience of any kind. It was literally my notes, just scribbling, recordings and some pictures and videos and whatnot. But then as people, that skyrocketed. That got so popular in just a matter of a month that I kind of had to be aware of an audience. I had to acknowledge one. And I couldn't ignore them at all when people started telling me, and this is happening to me too, or you wrote something in here that's been happening to me for years that I've never been able to talk to anybody about. You're telling me exactly what my demons are saying and doing to me, and nobody's been able to ever do that. I know this is a real deal. Help me. And I couldn't say no. So now it's becoming a little bit more service-oriented, a little bit more audience-centric, but it's still kind of a confusing collection of a dude's notes who's going through it and doesn't really have the bandwidth to make it any more than what it is right now. But the purpose is just, I think the purpose is changing, but the purpose still is to collect notes and share with people what I know and to hopefully let people, I do advertise a lot. I do spend a lot of time promoting it. I consider that a compliment to my former career anyway, and trying to make sure that people know the resources there because it's not worthy of everybody's time just now. And so now that it is that, even though it takes a lot of work and a lot of digging to get any value out of it, if you're brand new to the problem, it's still there and nothing else is. And so the purpose is that, it's just to be a resource to people in the problem. And now, I'm trying to segue into sort of like not segue, but add to it. I think it's time to meet people. I think it's time to work with people. I think it's time to befriend people who are in the problem. And I think it's time to organize, be a rally point or something besides the cause or the facilitator of the problem, but also a place for people with the problem who want to work towards helping themselves and others, can be and come to make that happen. And so I have on the blog, there's ways to contact me immediately. I'm available on Facebook Messenger around the clock. You just scan my messenger code, which is on the blog right now, the very first post. If you go to demonicactivity.blogspot.com, at the bottom of that first post about this show is a QR, or not QR code, but just a scanner code that you can scan with Facebook Messenger on your cell phone, and it will connect you to me immediately, and we can talk. And there's no time or day that is off limits to do that, and there's no time limit on that as long as I don't have anything pressing. And so we can talk about that and try to get you squared away as far as your understanding what's going on and put you on a path to handling it and maybe making connections for you with not only myself but the people in your area who are having similar difficulties who you may want to have handy if you needed to talk or needed something right away, because you will have needs to come up. And as a person who's in this problem who cannot fulfill their own needs, you will find that you are quite motivated to help others where you can't help yourself when you're in that problem, because you want to be able to do something. Even if it's not for you, you want to be able to fight somebody's demons, not your own. And so I can make that happen for you. I know literally tens of thousands of people across the world who are having this problem right now, who are more than willing to be your friend, as it were, in this problem. And so don't ever be shy about making use of that scan code. Call me if you have any problems. I know the answer. I have the answer or something. Somebody does. So that's the purpose of it. So right now, the old purpose was just a collection of notes, which are very important to you. The second purpose now, I'm hoping, is to start making, connecting people, making them useful to each other.
Well, I've often wondered this. Why does God allow people to be possessed? Great question. This is a wonderful question, and it's important. The answer to this answers a lot of different questions. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why did God let the little girl die of cancer? Questions like that. Why do people starve? How did that beautiful lady, who was a good lady all her life, why did she get raped and murdered? Why did they drag that black man, by a chain in the back of a truck around Texas for miles and miles? How does God stomach that and allow that to happen in this world? It is very simple. He when he created us, what he wanted from us cannot be garnered in any other way
but from a creature who has perfect and total free will. Free will to do bad and free will to do good. And it cannot be taken away. If it is taken away in any way, shape, or form, what he wanted to get from that person is gone forever. And so that means that while we're on earth, he's got our soul. Even the bad things that happen to good people, the bad things that happen to bad people, or whatever else, or the good things that happen to bad people, he's got all that in his hand. That to him is not at all inconsequential. If he has the number of your hairs on your head numbered or whatever, hairs on your head numbered, he cares about all those things. But he allows them to happen because he won't break his own rules. And if he has it in his hand, so anybody that's discomforted by those things, trust me, the bad things will be dealt with. They will be judged. The good things, the tears from the bad things, the good people will be wiped away and made justified. All of those things, will happen. Demons and any other creature has been given free will so that they can freely come to God and give him his love and give everybody else his love and be a citizen of a kingdom that is based on God's love. It must be freely given. It must be freely earned. It must be freely distributed. That's the ultimate thing. That's the only thing that will make eternity, which is like a really long time, tolerable. And it will be the only thing that keeps you from doing harm over eternity to yourself and to others. And when you love somebody, you don't hurt them. So if in this life you learn to love, which you can only do correctly if you choose to do it yourself, and you learn to do it yourself, you cannot be forced to do it. You cannot be prevented from knowing what it's like to not love. You cannot be shown only love and expect to know what love is. You have to be shown what it isn't, all right, to avoid getting it wrong. That's what's going to happen. So these things, somebody said, well, you're going to tell me that little girl had to die of cancer just to teach me what? Yes, that is what I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you that God will take away that tears. Take away that child's tears, and that child isn't going to get away with learning anything she shouldn't. She will be put somewhere else to learn what she needs to learn in her life. Had she lived it all out, God will take care of her. It is a tragically sad thing, but yeah, that is what we have to go through to get it right. Again, eternity is a long time. And once it starts, it doesn't stop, and you have to have it right, and you have to know the ins and the outs, the bad and the good, and it's dirty, but it's how it's done. And if it's not done, you're going to hurt. There's a lot of people God already loves all the way, and that love him all the way. He's got to think of them. He's not going to pollute his and their space with people who don't know the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's why those things happen, and that's why possession is allowed to happen. Whatever you do, you can never say God allowed, as in he liked it, or he was ambivalent about it, or he didn't care, or he got it wrong, or it's something that you can't understand that he did. Because you can easily understand it, and if you don't, you won't fit in heaven. You have to come to terms with why God, quote unquote, allows these things to happen, and you have to say, I don't like it, but it is how it's done, and you have to be in complete agreement with it and completely understand it and be content with it, or you won't make it, You will not be compatible in the kingdom of heaven. And so that question right there is a deadly question. If you choose to remain ignorant as to why God allows bad things to happen to good people or possessions to happen, you are in trouble. And so I would make that my priority if you're in that spot. And it's just how things are. It is raw. It is raw. Life is raw sometimes, and it has to be. It's just the way things are. And that's how our Father in heaven brings us up, and it is the right way. He knows what he's doing. And so that would be the next step to answering that question, with that question in your mind. You got somebody's answer. Test it in and out. If you think it could possibly be right, you better get on the stick. You better get on the ball. You can obey every commandment and not understand the answer to that question and be excluded. You could. So that's my answer on that.
So are there any certain types of people that demons possess? I mean, is it certain characteristics that they prey on?
Yes. It would all be. It would be a many-page document thick list of things this is a dangerous question. What demons or people? Demons are really prone to this kind of thing. People are. They want to pick a kind of person that this is going to happen to. They want to say, well, I'm not surprised that person is a druggie, or that person is a homosexual, or that person's a sinner, or that person's a Protestant and not a Catholic. That person wasn't baptized. It's not based on that. It's based on economy and location and ability and agenda and objective and goal. They are practical people. There is nothing about good and evil that doesn't have a practical aspect of it, every bit as relevant as the fact that something's good or bad, or the quality that something is good or bad, or that God has said something is good or bad. There's a practical, material aspect to good and evil, and it has almost nothing to do, it has everything but nothing to do with any one thing about a person. There is a propensity for people to think that people who do drugs are more prone, people who are mentally ill are more prone. It is actually, that you see what you see, how could you deny it? So what is the explanation if it's not that those things have brought demon possession on them? The explanation is easy. In the case of drugs, it was introduced to them, it was manufactured by demons, it was introduced to them to facilitate possession better, it was made addictive to make it easier for them to surrender their will to a demon. If you take drugs, it is likely you were meant to take them long before you even knew what they were, even if you just took them because you're a weak-minded person or a bad person or whatever the reason why you took them. Once you started taking them, you are up against a demon-manufactured chemical that is, you got sucked into it. You're not necessarily getting your just desserts. If you knew everything demons did to people, even who don't take drugs, you would never look at a drug and say you got what you deserved and mean it, because you can say that as long as you're ignorant, but not, but they're in the throes of devastation that they could not possibly stop or cut. They wouldn't have made that choice if they had known. Nobody's so stupid. If they, we talk about, we try to get kids to stay away from drugs, we tell them what could happen to them. The health issues, the job issues, ostracization, whatever. If you show them what happens, who made it, and what they're intended to do with it, you would, have you ever seen a kid eat a log that's on fire? That is as hard and as fast and furious as a kid would stay away from drugs if they knew what drugs were really used for and who made it. But they don't, so they just throw all that other stuff away and say, I'm going to do them anyway or try them anyway. Same thing with any other class of people or any other characteristic that stands out in a class of people that make them look like they might be more receptive to possession. You take the mentally ill. Again, the explanation is not that they were mentally ill and therefore got possessed, but rather they were possessed and it was botched or was not done as well as it should, or they pushed so hard back. A lot of mentally ill are fighters. A lot of them fight back so hard. The demon pushes back so hard that they just go beyond the point of repair. They do damage to a brain to break down somebody's will. Usually that makes people just kind of stupid and slow, but the one who fights the hardest usually gets damaged so bad that they can just become crazy. That's probably what happened there. So it's the possession that came before the insanity, not the other way around. So there's an explanation for behind, I would bet, every kind of class of people or characteristic, people that are defined by a particular characteristic and their propensity towards possession that actually explains the possession, that particular characteristic or whatever is explained by the possession and not vice versa.
Right.
What if I had to reverse that question on you, I'd say, who do you think it is that is most susceptible to? I mean, now I'm not saying you do that, but I mean, like if somebody came up to you with that, I would say, who do you see? Be honest, cut it straight. Who do you see being possessed by devils that you think either deserve it, or more likely, it seems to be happening to a lot of people who fit this description or whatever. Who are those people? Tell me who they are. And I would actually go out, and if I didn't know the answer already, I would go out, and if I couldn't surmise the answer based on what I already know, I would go out and I would ask them and say, what's the deal with this? I could do that. I might not get an answer, but I know who to ask, and I know where to ask, and I know how to ask. And so, I think that my answer would come back, and it would just say they're bad people or whatever. They might do it to somebody they don't respect, or the people they don't really want to give an answer to, or they don't want people digging. As we said, there needs to be a veil or a cloud of obfuscation or disinformation there for some of these things to work as well as they do. They might throw that out there, and they might make people save other people. But I've got the 411, the real story on most of that. And I'm telling you right now, it has nothing to do with nothing but what they've done, not what people are.
All right.
Okay.
So if someone has great faith, can they still be possessed?
If they have what?
Great faith, like very strong in their faith.
Well, I wish you hadn't asked that because, again, even if the Holy Spirit came down and knocked the demon out of you, unless he sticks there and actively does that for the rest of your days, they might come back. And I can speak from experience on that. Great faith will afford you just a little bit of. Faith isn't really a quantity like little faith versus big faith, because you can have a little bit, and it can be enough to do great things. So I don't really think of faith as a quantity. I think it's either you have it or you don't. And that's the way I think of it. And so, so anybody described as little faith, I would say they really didn't have any. They might have had the beginnings of it, they didn't have any. Anybody with great faith had enough, no matter what quantity that was in, as long as they had it. And so, you look at Jesus calling his disciples, one of them, "O ye of little faith," and yet you hear him in another part of the Bible saying, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could tell this mountain to throw itself in the water, the ocean, and it would do it. And so kind of sounds like he's contradicting himself. He's not. He's saying that a little faith in the respect of you had enough to follow me so far, but then you faltered. That would be little faith. Great faith would be you had whatever amount you had, but it was sufficient to, it doesn't matter the amount. If you have it, you're powerful. And so if you have faith, you can ask in a time of need and relevance for something you want, and it will happen. The only act of faith that I saw consequence in my 10 years of doing this is a situation of near death, literal near death, where the person was going to die, had already had 5 simultaneous heart attacks, like consecutive heart attacks. It was over. And it's hard. So they called out to Jesus, and Jesus himself doesn't come; he sends to the Holy Spirit, and that happened for them. And the Holy Spirit had knocked out all of his demons. They were gone. They couldn't be heard or seen anywhere in the hospital as they were at the time. And the person was healed. Their heart was fine. It had failed, and then it had come back with no defect whatsoever. And during that time, when they were unconscious, they claimed to have had a conversation with the Holy Spirit about a lot of things. But when they came to, it was only a matter of time later that their demons came roaring back, but a little diminished. They had admitted that they had been knocked out, and they didn't know by what or whom, or wouldn't say. But that person was very sincere in their call to Christ, and it was answered. And that's the first time I'd ever seen that had happened. And it was that experience that had changed what I call my faith and my belief into knowing. I can't call myself a believer or a man of faith anymore. I simply know for a fact that everything I thought before is not untrue. And so that's what faith can do. And I think the goal of faith is to bring you into a state of knowing instead of just belief. So, yeah, a great faith component is.
Well, can a child be possessed?
Yes, and so can animals. There's a whole generation of children growing up right now whose parents are the devil's own. They are using demonic weapons similar to the ones that I've shown. If you search for demonic weapons on my blog, you can use the search engine of the blog. You don't have to use Google. That won't pull up the good ones. There are children right now who will throw those at adults or anybody else at the behest of demons in order to deride, disrespect, diminish, injure other people who demons have deemed part of the culling or the exclusion. And it's done in mass. And it's done, they do it without a conscience whatsoever. There's a whole generation of children growing up right now who will have no heart, no capacity for love, no care whatsoever for the world or its people. And so, yeah, not only can be possessed, but they are the worst. They are the ones who are in critical, grave danger. And the sorrowful thing is they are not correctable. They were raised by the wrong beings, and they have been. I don't know how to handle that problem. But yes, so yes, they most certainly can. And as I told you, that problem starts before you even know it started. And by the time you notice it happened, it's already done. The devil and his are good enough now to only start that process without you knowing and finish it without you knowing. But to start it and finish it at an early age, at a tender young age of 8 and 9 even. And by then, I mean, you have lost that child. I don't know that, sometimes I wonder, the Israelites are told to go into the promised land and kill man, woman, children, and beasts. I thought, how could God do that? How could he order that? I don't wonder if maybe there was a good reason that they were serving false gods and they had given their children and their animals over to those false gods. Those false gods weren't fake. They weren't pieces of wood or stone. Their idols were, but those were real creatures of power with their own population or cavalcade or army or regiment or whatever of demons that did, in fact, work with people, live among them and do things. And I'm wondering if maybe the reason why God would order such a thing like that is not to be really nasty to those who didn't serve him, but to rid the world of the vehicles by which demons use to pollute it, and that would be any animal, child, woman, or man. So yes, I do believe it. I've seen it, and it is sorrowful and pitiful, and justifies everything God has ever done to such in the past, I believe.
Well, by being possessed, can this demon kill you or possibly others? Or these demons?
They can. It's not that they haven't tried. I have made them mad enough to have pretty amazing efforts made on their part to make that happen. And I have actually, I don't think I've died, but I think I have been injured to the point where I can't imagine how it didn't happen. I just got lucky, I guess, or I'm blessed, whatever. They can kill you, and they can kill you heinously, and they can kill you quickly. That would be the equivalent of, however, you getting mad at Farmer Joe's cow and killing his cattle. You can't do it. It's not your cow to kill. And so a lot of times people who are possessed or, quote-unquote, being, afflicted by or otherwise owned or used by demons, the benefit of that is you're a demon's property who would take retribution out on any other demon who might deprive them of that property. So anybody, if there was another human who wasn't anybody else's property, any other demon's property or project or whatever else, who came up on you and tried to do harm to you that would deprive them of you, that person would be fiddling with their lifespan for sure, and it would be quick and painless if they want to be. It would, in an instant. There's nothing preventing them from doing you dead in a heartbeat if they don't want to. The only thing that's preventing them from doing it is the law among themselves. The penalty for killing someone else's cow is the termination of your own life, plus the life of everyone you know in your clan. So you would be killing your family and your friends and whatever else you had going for you by killing another human. They have ways to keep that from happening. Pretty good ones. And deterrence, strong deterrence.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is with a demon, you can kill them several times. And you can do that with a human too. In the ether, you can bring someone to death and then revive them and repair them and then do it all over again. You don't have to kill them once. You can keep doing it over and over and over. And you can put them through it over and over and over. People have dreams, recurring nightmares of them being tortured to death and maybe their skin ripped off their body, their head being chopped off, and kind of thing. I hate to say this, but that's probably real, and it's probably being done to you over and over, not because you're having a recurring nightmare, but because it's being done over and over. And they can do that to demons. Demons conceal it, unlike you who don't remember it other than just the dream itself as a dream. With demons, they can remember that, and they can feel it. And you could too if they let you.
Wow.
So right now they're content to let that horrify you, but with demons, the penalty is not just death; it's death again and again and again and again.
Well, have you ever had an out-of-body experience or astro projected? If so,
Sure. Our bodies are merely anchors of the soul. We are a different creature entirely than the one most of us know, and we can leave it. We don't. Some people claim they can do it intentionally, or they can be done to you intentionally, and I have no doubt. I'm sure it can. I don't know anybody who said it and shown it to me, but I know for a fact that a lot of quote-unquote dreams you have are not that at all. You have unanchored from your body, and you have gone somewhere else. Most likely, you have anchored into one of your other selves. That's my asking if you asked another question, something about what is a familiar. I don't know what a familiar is, but I do know that there is more than one of you, that you are not judged just on this life, but on the product and the consequences and the actions of yourself in other lives. Sometimes you will gravitate towards, you will fall into the person, the body that is anchored for that part of your soul, that copy or that duplicate or that, I don't know how soul works, but it's more than one component. Just like God is, there's a Godhead 3, you are multiple pieces that unite at some point, but right now not. And you can see and be in other places. Again, usually you anchor into one of your other selves. And I have done that maybe like 8 or 9 times within the past couple of years, where I can remember vividly what happened and things like that. I don't call it astral projection. I don't call it whatever that's out of body. I don't have names for the things that happen to me. I can just tell you what they have, and I can listen to other people's descriptions of those terms, and I can say, well, it might be what you're talking about. This is what happened to me, and I think we might be talking about the same thing. I hate to use people's terms because a lot of times people will have thing like this will happen to them, and then they will ensconce that event or that occasion or that fact into a bunch of malarkey, into religion, or wrap it into religion. Or they'll say, well, that's part of Hinduism, or this. It's just God's physical universe. It's not anything religious or significant as far as that goes. What it is just how things work. You may or not be aware of them. Why God may not have taken the time to make sure everybody understood that's what happens or what can happen, I don't know. But I would say that if God had to keep the message real simple, he got everything right. Whether you're in one body or another, or in no body, or if you're in the past or the present or the future, there's only one thing you have to be aware of, and that is the difference between good and evil, and you have to act on that difference correctly. And so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter all these things. You don't have to know the term of it. You don't have to know what happened to you. Good and evil on your mind all the time, no matter when, no matter where, no matter what, and you're straight no matter where you are for what happens. So.
Well, this is a question that that I've pondered about.
Okay.
What happens to someone's soul if they have a demon either in them or attached to them when they die? Does it still be attached to their soul?
Good question. Good question. I've had a couple of pretty constructive conversations with demons in the past along these lines. They try to be cute and coy about what they tell you to see what you know and to see where you'll go with what they say. That doesn't work with me anymore, so those conversations are few and far between. But there is a time when I've had this conversation before they kind of got the idea that I was on to them. I have seen some evidence that suggests that that demons can divert a soul or afflict a soul that is no longer anchored to the earthly body. I have seen evidence, and I cannot conclusively say, and I won't, that they can even trap it or keep it from ascending or settling in its realm after it is departed from the body. Not forever, but for a time. And you yourself would never be able to say that person's soul has been trapped by the devil, or that person's soul will not unite with other souls when it passes on from this world, or that person's soul is in danger of demonic interference. You cannot say that. That is not the goal of a goal you can identify. It is up to a demon, and the demon has to pull it off successfully. It is not anything a human would be able to ascertain as a factor or a probability or even a present concept. They can say it, and a lot of demons do go, well, this particular person's soul, it was trapped here by a demon. You don't know that. You would never know. I mean, unless you were told and you had a reliable source, you would not. There's no way you can know. But it can happen. A soul, everything's physical. Everything is physical. God is physical. Angels are physical. Demons are physical. They're just just kind of physical nature that we don't understand everything about physical. We know everything about our own physical. We don't know everything about physical in general. But everything's physical, including a soul. It can be touched. It can be hindered. It can be hurt. It can be diverted. It can be redirect itself. It can, just like our body, but it's just in a space and in a way that us humans don't understand or don't know how to work with, but we could someday. And so it can be touched, it can be harmed, it can be trapped, it can be diverted, it can be found, it can be seen, it can be hidden, it can be anything physical can be done to. It's just a matter of doing it. And so demons are more adept at that than we are, because they are from the top down and we're from the bottom up. So they already know about these things and had eons to work with them and understand them and manipulate them. Because we at the bottom, not only were we in a disadvantaged position for doing any of that, but we don't have exposure to it to understand it or even know about it generally. And so, what I think about it is that it's possible. The angle that most people take with it when they ask that question is something to do with they want to know at the bottom line, how do I know? What can I do about it? Is it something I have to be afraid of? The answer is, if you want to be. If you want to be afraid of it, go ahead. Is there something I do to prevent it? You make sure you listen to the right voices. If you hear, if you feel like you are not hearing the voice of God or the voice of Jesus, the Savior, all the time, or you're listening to something else, or you're hearing influences of something else, you need to change that and make sure that you are hearing the right things all the time. You're thinking the good things, whatsoever is lovely, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is honorable, and so forth. You know what I'm talking about, right? Keeping your mind on the right things, saying the right thing is going into your ears all the time, the right thing is coming out of your mouth all the time, the right actions are being taken. It would be impossible that you would not, that you would be pulled into any other situation you would not want to after death. It'd be almost impossible, I think, because you would be claimed. You'd resonate with people. Because, like I said, the higher up you go, that when you're a soul, when you're disembodied, when you're not anchored to the body anymore, and you rise up, you start to go into the higher levels as a deceased or whatever, as a soul. The more thought becomes reality, you're going to resonate. You're going to hook up with people more like you than not. Here, it's a mixed match. You can be a flower in a pot of dirt here. You can be a needle in a haystack. You can be whatever, very different from the people around you. But as you go upwards, you start to only magnetize or settle into groups more like yourself. And so do not be a lost soul. Do not be a wayward soul. Do not be a soul that's on your own, does your own thing, or does anything that God would not want you to do, and you will find yourself in good company when you pass on. Pass up. I don't say pass on, I say pass up. But
well, we got a few more minutes. This next question is another one that I ponder about.
Okay.
Is is there going to be another great war between God and the devil over us humans? And if so, why?
It's underway right now. Why? Because man has already been judged by the law, has been found guilty. A Savior has come, and he has wiped away that guilt. And the war now is getting people to choose to appropriate that salvation. And, one end, and then the other one is to distract people from doing so. And so that war is already on. When they talk about the time, the end has come, the time is now, and you think, well, 2,000 years has passed. Nope, that's how long this war has taken. There are that many people that need to come through who have been judged guilty, who need the opportunity to be saved. It's taken 2,000 years to parade them through the earth. That war is on. It was on. It started the very day Jesus beat the devil, overcame temptation in the desert. That's the day the war started. You read the book of Mark, that was day one. When Jesus tempted the devil, or devil tempted Jesus, and Jesus overcame each temptation, it was on like Donkey Kong right there. That's when the devil became the devil. The devil before was just what he was. Now it's a war, and so that's what it is. So it's underway as we speak. You are in it. This is the apocalypse as we know it, or as it's known. The other reason why it takes so long is, I told you how there is the separation between realms and species is based on, one property is timelessness. So what time moves relative, to our time and other places differently. And so God's giving every species. It's not going to be so much of humans up there in heaven. It's going to be a lot of different creatures. It's going to be like the creature cantina from Star Wars. It's going to be weird looking with a lot of different kinds of people and creatures. And those also are given the time to do what they need to do to get to heaven. He's not going to let any of his Christian go that embodies the kind of his spirit and embodies his son and is worthy as a citizen of heaven, who has the virtues and the qualities, to make a worthy citizen of heaven. He's not going to let anybody go, no matter what kind of creature they are. And so there's realms below us where time is creeping by ever so slowly. We're going to be sit here until until God is satisfied with how much time he's given those and so forth. There are already the hints of the end for other realms is already here. We're getting the reason why there's an increased possession, increased demonic presence in this world right now is some realms are already now being destroyed. They're already collapsing. They're already their judgment has come and is now underway, and the consequences of their judgment, and they're flooding downward into our realm. And so the universe is kind of collapsing on itself as we speak, and it's coming. It's coming. Ours hasn't started to deteriorate yet, but we're seeing evidence of it, and that is increased demonic activity suggests that very thing.
So what does your future look like?
Terrific. If I put Jesus at the helm, I've confessed him. I confess him in thought, word, and deed. I make mistakes, but I tell you what, he's the first to know about them, and he's the first to ask for help with them. And the first thing I do after doing so, what I'm supposed to, I have no doubt that Jesus put anything in front of me that I cannot overcome. If not myself, he can do it. And so I see my future with hope. Although I am discouraged, I get right back up and keep moving, and I know that hope then is from Christ, because nobody keeps making the same mistakes over and over and over and has any kind of hope left after a while, and yet I do. And it's as strong as ever and keeps getting stronger. I know that it's Christ working in me. I will overcome, and so that's how I see my future, as a conqueror.
That is awesome. So if anybody is interested in more information or able to speak to you, where can they go to get in contact with you?
So go to the blog and scan that code with Messenger. You can also call me on my phone. I do not mind. I do not mind at all. You can email me. I believe all this information is on your site, but if it isn't, Theo Knox, the Sunnyvale Knox is TheoKnock @gmail.com. I'm Theo Knox on everything, on Facebook, Twitter, Bible.com, Quora, every social site out there I have a presence on, It's TheoKnock, Theonock. And gmail.com is the address I prefer to use. You can also use Theonock at Outlook, Theonock at yahoo.com, Theonock at whatever major wealth service out there, or Theonock at whatever that service is. The Facebook Messenger thing is the thing I prefer because it keeps track of my conversations, and from there I can make sure that I don't miss you, that I keep a history of our conversations. So I'm always I manage my relationships better with Messenger than anything else. So Facebook Messenger is my preference. But if you need to talk, if you're not trying to type to somebody all the time and you need to talk, pick up the phone. 408-685-4049 is the number to call.
Awesome.
Well, James, I do appreciate you coming on the show and telling us your story and your life and educating us on some of this. I do appreciate you taking the time to come and sharing this with us. I'm sure
Thank you so much for having me.
It takes a lot of courage and strength.
It does.
And I have nothing but respect. I have nothing but respect for you, my man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And anytime you want to come on the show, just give me a shout out, and we'll see what we can do to get you set up. Because I know there's a ton of other questions we had, but
sure.
I'm only allowed 2 hours. So, and
okay, that's fine. All righty.
So, and if you need anything, you got my contact information. You give me a yell.
I will do that. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, darling.
You too, have a good night.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that's it for us tonight. I want to thank James Bush for coming on the show and thank everyone who took the time to listen in. I'd like to give a big shout out to the Vibe Radio Network, also to all the first responders and our men and women in the armed services. Thank you all for your service. Our guest for next Thursday night, February 9th, Friday, shit. Just demon stuff's got me all messed up. Will be Stephen Myers. Stephen is an author, lecturer, and independent researcher. He has studied the Great Pyramid of Egypt for over 20 years to understand how this ancient wonder of the world was built and why. So turn in next week to another exciting show starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to listen in to this show and our past shows, you can go to blogtalkradio.com/withinthechaos.com, or you can go to our website at blackdiamondps.org, or you can go to Within the Chaos like page on Facebook for shows that's already been posted. Look for postings and upcoming guests, and give us a like. Thank you all again, and until next week, be safe, and everyone have a good night.
Night, y'all.